It's 6 p.m. here in Cairo. Time to have a look on the latest stories from Channel 2. I'm Abir Mitwalibi presenting the news bulletin. Muslims pilgrims stone the devil as Hajj comes to a successful end. More aid seekers are killed by Israeli occupation forces in Gaza as aid boat is prevented from reaching the enclave. And Kiev says that Russia launches biggest drone on Ukraine and advances in Central Eastern region. Welcome back. The news in full. Muslims pilgrims continued stoning the devil on the last Jamarat days and the third Tashriq days as part of the last of rituals as annual Hajj pilgrimage comes to a successful end. Starting before dawn, 1.6 million plus pilgrims began throwing stones at three giant concrete walls symbolizing the devil in Mina Valley near the holy city of Mecca. The ritual commemorates Holy Prophet Ibrahim's stoning of the devil at the three spots where Satan tried to dissuade him from obeying God's order to sacrifice his son, Holy Prophet Ismail. Turkey slammed Israel for intercepting a Gaza-bound boat carrying activists, including Swedish campaigner Greta Thunberg, early on Monday, describing it as heinous attack. Hamas condemned the occupation act seizing the ship. The movement also demanded Israeli occupation to release all international activists on board of the ship and held Israel responsibility of their safety. We have more in the following report.
Israeli forces seized a Gaza-bound aid boat and detained Greta Thunberg and other activists who were on board early Monday, enforcing long-standing blockade of the Palestinian territory that has been tightened during the war with Hamas. The activists had set out to protest Israel's ongoing military campaign in Gaza Strip, which is among the deadliest and most destructive since World War II, and its restrictions on the entry of humanitarian aid, both of which have put the territory of some 2 million Palestinians at risk of famine. The Freedom Flotilla coalition, which had organized the voyage, said the activists were kidnapped by Israeli forces while trying to deliver desperately needed aid to the territory. It said in a statement that the ship was unlawfully boarded, its unarmed civilian crew abducted, and its life-saving cargo, including baby formula, food and medical supplies, confiscated. It also said the ship was seized in international waters, some 200 kilometers from Gaza. Israel's foreign ministry said the activists would return to their home countries and the aid would be sent to Gaza through established channels. Thunberg, a climate campaigner, was among 12 activists aboard the Madeleine, which set sail from Sicily a week long. It had stopped on Thursday to rescue 4 migrants who have jumped overboard to avoid being detained by the Libyan Coast Guard. Hamas condemned the Occupations Act seizing the ship. The movement demanded Israeli occupation to release all the international activists on board of the ship and held Israel responsibility of their safety. Hamas also called on the UN and international organizations to swiftly move to break the blockade of the war-torn Gaza Strip. Iran also considered the seizing of the ship and detention of activists on board as piracy.
And 3 Palestinians were killed today in an Israeli air raid in the Gaza City district of Al Zaytun as Israel continued a 20-month aggression across the Strip. Meanwhile, Palestinians said the Israeli forces and allied local gunmen fired towards incubators and patients receiving treatment at hospitals are in danger of death due to the acute fuel shortages. The Israeli occupation military has also raided or besieged numerous hospitals during the war. And in occupied West Bank, Israeli occupation forces continued a destruction campaign in the Tulkarm camp for Palestinian refugees amid a month-old wide-scale escalation. Occupation bulldozers left scores of residential buildings destroyed, raising to 106 the number of destroyed buildings in Tulkarm and Nur el-Shams camp. Israeli occupation soldiers have also cleared the cemetery near the refugee camp in the city of Jenin. Since January, an intensive Israeli military escalation in the north of the West Bank has led to displacing Palestinians from 3 refugee camps as tanks were deployed in Jenin to prevent a return of displaced Palestinians. The Israeli escalations in the Palestinian territory have coincided with aggression in Gaza. Ukrainian Air Force said on Monday Russia hit Ukraine overnight with its largest drone attack since the start of the war, causing some damage at a military airfield in the west of the country that was one of its main targets. It was the latest in Russian onslaughts since Ukraine launched drone attacks on air bases deep inside Russia earlier this month. Earlier, Russia said its forces had advanced to the edge of the east central Ukraine region in what Russian officials described as way to force Ukraine to accept the reality of Russia's territorial gains in peace talks. Russian President Vladimir Putin has approved a new naval strategy which aims to fully restore Russia's position as one of the world's leading maritime powers. Kremlin aide said in an interview published today that Russia has the world's 3rd most powerful navy after China and the United States, according to the most public rankings. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Baghei said on Monday that Iran will soon hand a counter-proposal for a nuclear deal to the United States via Oman in response to a U.S. offer that Tehran deems unacceptable. The spokesperson also called on the international community to force nuclear disarmament upon Israel, the only nuclear-capable country in the Middle East, which Tehran says is trying to thwart its nuclear negotiations with the U.S. Baghei said that the U.S. proposal was not the result of previous 5 rounds of negotiations, adding that there was not yet any detail on the timing of the 6th round. U.S. President Donald Trump's new ban on travel to the U.S. by citizens from 12 mainly African and Middle Eastern countries took effect on Monday. The new proclamation, which Trump signed last week, applies to citizens of Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, the Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. It also imposes highlighted restrictions on people from Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, and Venezuela, who are outside the U.S. and don't hold a valid visa. And U.S. police ordered the public to disperse from downtown Los Angeles after further unrest with cars torched and security forces firing tear gas on protesters in the wake of Donald Trump's deployment of National Guard troops to America's 2nd biggest city. Protests in Los Angeles, home to a large Latino population, broke out on Friday, triggered by immigration raids that resulted in dozens of arrests of what authorities say are illegal migrants and gang members. And to Korea, a Seoul court said today it will indefinitely postpone a trial of President Lee Jae-myung on charges of violating election law in 2022. South Korea's Supreme Court ruled in May, before Lee was elected, that Lee had violated election law by publicly making false statements during his 2022 presidential bid and sent the case back to an appeal court. The Seoul High Court, which had scheduled a hearing for the case on June 18th, said on Monday that it will postpone the hearing to be decided later without a date. Welcome back. Finance Minister Ahmed Koshuk said that a very ambitious plan will be placed as a July to finance economic support initiatives targeting industrial and export activities. The minister said a new budget has been allocated to intensive the private sector to boost production and exports and enhance the competitiveness of the Egyptian economy. Koshuk also said that the plan will be done through a stimulating program for export burden refunds as part of their integrated vision to enhance economic growth. Minister of Environment Yasmin Fouad headed to French city of Nice on Monday to participate at the 3rd UN Ocean Conference on behalf of President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. At the opening of the conference, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres cautioned that excessive human activity, including deep sea mining, illegal fishing, plastic population, and rising sea temperatures, threaten delicate ecosystems. Oceans provide a vital buffer against climate change by absorbing around 30% of the planet heating CO2 emissions. And top U.S. and Chinese officials were due to meet in London on Monday for talks aimed at diffusing the high-stakes trade dispute that had widened in recent weeks beyond tit-for-tat tariffs to export controls over goods critical to global supply chains. Officials from the two superpowers will meet to try to get back on track with the preliminary agreement struck last month in Geneva that had briefly lowered the temperature between Washington and Beijing. The talks come at a crucial time for both economies, with investors looking for some relief from United States President Donald Trump's cascade of tariff orders since his return to the White House in January. World number one Nouran Gohar has defended her Girl Markets British Open title after fighting back twice to win an epic 5-game victory against regaining world champion Noor Sherbini at Birmingham Repertory Theatre. In a tight opening, Sherbini made a rapid start where the 20-year-old took a commanding 7-3 lead early on as she looked relaxed on court in short, sharp rallies. Gohar pulled the scores back to close the gap, but could not chalk off the lead, with Sherbini clinching game ball at the first opportunity at 10-9 to take a crucial lead. Portugal captain Cristiano Ronaldo was in tears as he led his country to their second Nations League title by beating holder Spain 5-3 on penalties following a thrilling 2-2 draw after extra time in Sunday showpiece match. Ronaldo's 139th international goal took the final to shootout, with Alvaro Morata's miss proving costly for Spain as Robin Neves struck the winning spot kick to spark wild scenes of celebration, emotion overwhelming the veteran captain. Spain's 5-4 victory over France in Thursday's semi-finals ensured Luis de la Fuente side has continued an unbeaten run that stretched back to March 2023, coming into Sunday's showpiece final in Munich. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Thanks for watching and happy Eid.